Friends, Rotarians, guests, welcome to the October 27th meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. I'm Walt Kuno, president of the club, Paul Harris Fellow. First, some housekeeping. Turn your ringers off on your telephone, please. All right. I have been looking forward to this meeting since it popped up on our program. We have so many special folks to welcome, to hear from. You have the privilege to hear directly from one of our grant recipients, the West End School, and then from Josh Heird, the University of Louisville's athletics director. So let's get this party started.
Jock down.
Enough of that foolishness. I don't know if we're having a tip-off or a kickoff or a side-out, but the first pitch comes from one of our own all-stars in the room, the Reverend Kevin Cosby, senior pastor of St. Stephen Baptist Church and president of Simmons College, Louisville's only HBCU. Because of your support of our Rotary Promise Scholarship through the Evolve 502 program, our Rotary Honors Scholars from Iroquois and Western can now attend Simmons as part of their Rotary experience. Welcome, Reverend Cosby.
Let us pray together. Creator and sustainer of our lives, our thoughts are with our mayor, Greg Fisher, in the transitioning of his father, George. We pray, Lord, that you will comfort him and his mother. May he feel your peace. May he feel your assurance. Thank you for this gathering. Thank you that we are here in this hallowed place. That something that starts downtown can spread around town. Use us as your tools to make our world better. Help us never to forget that you give to us that you might give through us. Don't let us be a reservoir hoarding opportunities, but help us to be a channel in which opportunity and hope flows throughout our city. When we're tempted to turn on each other, help us to turn to each other, for ultimately we are all we got. And regardless of our perspectives and orientations and ideologies, thank you that even when we don't see eye to eye, we can still walk hand in hand as brothers and sisters. Make this place and this event fabulous for our good and your glory. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Cosby. Batting second in our all-star lineup is Angie Bailey, Human Resources Consultant and Vice President of our Speakers Committee, who ensures the quality of our programs. Thank you, Angie, for leading us in the pledge and the four-way text.
It's not karaoke, right? Good afternoon. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Go Cards.
Thank you all. Please be seated. It's always our pleasure to welcome guests. Today we have 28 guests, and so we're not going to go through individually, but if you're interested in joining Rotary, please come down here to the What is Rotary table when we're finished, and Craig Sherman will tell you what it takes and how you can become a member of a group like this. Folks, the work of our club is also accomplished primarily through our committees. We're in need of volunteers to join the Invocation, Public Image, and the Unsung Heroes programs. We're also looking for those who'd be willing to participate in our weekly meetings by leading the Invocation, the Pledge and four-way test, and reading our announcements. See me, Jolene, Or Tracy, if you can add our name to your list. If you can add our name to your list. Okay, that's great. Batting third in the home is Louis Seeger of Republic Bank and Trust, which is a major supporter of the West End School. Louis is a co-chair of the Emerging Leaders Committee and vice chair of the Membership Development Engagement Committee, to the stage to share a few announcements.
Thanks to Rotarian and Club Director Kevin Fields, Rotary was very much in the spotlight last week of the West Louisville Economic Mobility Summit and Award Program. Rotarians Nay Shand, Trey Boo, Evon Smith, Dave Christopher, and Denise Spears all participated in panel discussions, and Denise spoke about our West Louisville Housing Initiative. At the awards program that followed the summit, President Walt presented the Lifeway Economic Development Award to entrepreneur Donnie Atkins, owner of Club Cedar and part owner in Josh Heird, who is hosting us today. So we have several upcoming events to register for. All are invited to our new member celebration on November 9th from 5 to 7 at 1020 Craft Brewery in Butchertown. We will join the Kiwanis Club on Tuesday, November 22nd at Audubon Country Club for Thanksgiving meal. The speaker will be Captain Jimmy Parrish from the Salvation Army. The cost is $35, cash or check only at the door. We have a hard deadline of this coming Monday to provide a head count to Audubon. The cost to attend without eating is $10. Then the annual holiday party at Big Spring on December 7th. It'll be a huge buffet, cash bar, live music, dancing, games, and prizes. Also, thanks to Rotarian Barbara Lynn Jameson and our social committee, we will have a Rotary Day at the Opera on December 18th. Gift of the Magi will be performed in English, and we will have the opportunity to visit with the cast following the performance. It's a discounted ticket price of $30. And then last but not least, just make sure you read the SPARK notes about upcoming events and dates for also the Iroquois and Western High School volunteer opportunities.
Thank you, Will. All of us around with the microphones messed up everybody else's microphones, so we're going to get that fixed real quick. All right, now here we go. We're back at it. I would like to ask Dan Hall, President of the Board of the West End School, Andrew Gillette, Director of Development, and my friends Caleb Mason and Darian Wade, graduates, up to the stage for our check presentation. Full disclosure, I've been involved with the West End School since 2009 when my wife Lynn and I began cooking dinner for middle school boarders. We are all in. Lynn would be here today, but she spends her Thursdays at the library at the West End School. I was on the board for 5 years at the West End and secretary until I resigned under duress so I could give Rotary 100% of my attention. But I will never forget about the West End School. Robert Blair, former head at Kentucky Country Day, and his wife Debbie have a special place in heaven for the work they have done founding the West End School in 2005 with just 3 middle school boys. 17 years later, the school is serving over 140 boys in pre-kindergarten through 8th grade. It is fully accredited by the Independent Association of Schools in Central States, ISACs, the same rigorous accreditation that Collegiate, KCD, and the DePaul School belong to. Listen to this. West End School is a free, private, academically rigorous pre-K through 8th grade with a middle school boarding component that serves our neighbors in the West End. It is 97% black boys, and you'll have to wait for an exciting announcement, who grow into responsible young men. The motto at West End School is to be a man is to be responsible. West End School offers small class size so that all students receive individual instruction. West End School provides counseling support to address academic, behavioral, and emotional needs. Before and after school enrichment programs are available for our day students. Our middle school students play team sports and board in our residence hall 5 days a week. West End School students participate in a summer program which includes academic courses, enrichment activities, and travel opportunities which we help prevent summer learning loss. West End grads are provided with work opportunities during their high school time. Grads have been offered more than $5 million in scholarships and are currently attending academically rigorous private, parochial, and magnet high schools, as well as national and local colleges and universities like Tufts, University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, Jefferson, Berea, Western Kentucky University, University of Memphis, and Murray State. All West End School grads are pursuing a high school diploma or college degree, serving in the military or working full-time. Let me say that again. All West End School graduates are pursuing a high school or college degree, serve in the military, or work full-time. These are the outcomes. Yes, that is actually. These are the outcomes that Rotary supports. I have two of these grads as my guests. I've had the privilege of knowing Caleb and Darian since they were in the 6th grade. They both graduated from West End School, then to St. Francis High School, and now they are working their way through college. Darian began at College of Memphis, is now working third shift at Sazerac Bottling Company, where his supervisor is a West End School grad. He will attend Jefferson Community College, earning an automotive technology certificate before heading to Berea to study and to play basketball. Caleb Mason began his college journey at Western, and today remotely works as a junior studying data analytics. Wow, I can hardly spell that, let alone know what that entails. Caleb is working his way through college too. He needs an internship in logistics or operation management next summer. I invited these young all-stars here that they could make connections for summer jobs, internships, and programs. Please help them and enrich yourselves by talking to them after our meeting. This is Rotary's 3rd year of support of the West End School, funding literacy programs that enable West End School students and West End School to buy the expendable literacy testing supplies for their students. Rotarians Ken Silvaggi, Larry Sloan, Steve Brungworth, and I read and discuss books like Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy with the 8th grade students. Ask any of us what we learned. And now the check. Where's the drum roll? Where's the check? Check it's in the mail.
It's over there.
This is even better. It is a blank check. This is even better. As Andrew says, my favorite. What Deline didn't know was I cleaned it off because nobody could read my handwriting, and I used invisible ink, okay? So Dan, come on up here. Andrew, come on up here. Let's shake hands. We'll get it filled in and take pictures later.
Can I fill it in for you?
You had one job. And now Dan's going to share a few things with us about the West End School.
Well, thank you, Walt, and thank you, Rotary Club of Louisville, for your support of the West End School down through the years. We really appreciate it. And Walt, I really want to thank you because not only have you served on our Board of Trustees, you have been a mentor down through the years, and you continue, as we see today, to serve as a valuable mentor to our alumni and our students, so we appreciate that. As Walt said, the mission of the West End School is to provide a safe and structured learning environment for our students where we create an expectation of excellence. And we provide a pathway of success for our students. And we equip our students to reach their highest potential. Darian and Caleb really are great representatives of our student body and our alumni. We're going on to do marvelous things in the future, and which we have been privileged to serve. We are very, very excited about their future and the future of our community as we raise new leaders. Many of our alumni, as Walt indicated, are enjoying success in high school, in college, in military, in the corporate world, and they have begun to give back to their community. As a matter of fact, one of our alumnus, Kenny Gray, is a banker here in Louisville, and he currently serves on our board of trustees. So it's just an example of our raising leaders for the years to come. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Pastor Cosby, who was one of the founding board members on the board of trustees of the Western School, and I'd like to acknowledge Pastor Cosby and give him another round of applause. As Walt said, we are very, very excited because we are opening in the next couple of years. We will be opening up a girls' school for the West End. We're very, very excited about that. We know that our girls experience just as many challenges and in many ways more challenges than our boys do. So we're very, very excited about expanding our mission to serve girls. We could not have had the success and impact over the past 17 years without the strong community support. As Walt said, we are a tuition-free private university that relies on financial contributions and volunteers to fulfill our mission. Many community organizations and individuals believe in and support our mission. So we sincerely appreciate your support, and we appreciate the support from countless organizations, individuals who contribute financially, who volunteer or serve as mentors for our students. Josh, I want to say that we were so excited and honored that you and Coach Kenny Payne and Coach Jeff Walls and other U of L student athletes came down to share in our grand announcement last month in the opening of our girls' school. So that's just typical of the kind of support that we received, that Jeff, that Josh and Coach Payne and Coach Walls would take time from their busy schedule to come and support us. So we say thank you to all of you. We thank you, Walt. Thank you for what you do and what you will continue to do. And we're just blessed to be a part of this community, and we're blessed to be a part of your family. Thank you.
I don't know about you all, but sometimes I feel like a proud papa when I'm not even a proud papa. I'm just glad to have known these young men and glad to be involved in the West End School. So, one of the things I want to make sure that everybody knows, when we finish this year, the mine, that many of the service projects and the community volunteer places that you know about, and you as Rotarians are part of this, whether you watch online, whether you come, whether you just write a check to the Rotary Fund of Louisville. This all helps and makes it worthwhile what we do in our community is we impose and we practice service above self. And getting involved, if you want to get involved with West End School, just talk to me. I know how to get there. And now, batting cleanup is Ken Salvaggi, General Manager of ESPN Louisville, 2022-23 Chair of the Kentucky Derby Festival, Paul Harris Fellow, +3 to the podium to introduce today's speaker. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, President Walt. Josh Heird he has a strong motor. He's great at multitasking, and no doubt that's shaped from his college days at Mississippi College, where he was an academic all-conference honoree every semester, while competing in football, track and field, and cross country, earning All-American Southwest Conference 800-meter championship and an all-conference cross-country selection. He still runs just about every day, and not just with his wife Abby to the activities of their son Gus and daughter Hadley, but on track fields or any field he loves to run. He's been on a great run at the University of Louisville, serving as Cardinals Athletic Director for the past 5 months after serving nearly 6 months as interim AD and nearly 3 years as Deputy Athletic Director, where he was the sport administrator for men's basketball, football, and baseball, and oversaw men's and women's golf and swimming. When the Cards men's basketball season tips off Sunday, Kenny Payne will be their new coach, hired by Josh while he was establishing an NIL department within athletics and addressing educational payments for student athletes and working with his team on a record operating budget for the 22-23 year. When you go to the Cards football game Saturday, notice the amazing Thornton's Academic Center of Excellence that opened 6 years ago and serves all Cardinal student athletes daily in 2 dozen sports. Josh helped design and oversee the construction of that facility, as well as the Dr. Mark and Cindy Lynn Soccer Stadium, the Jim Patterson Baseball Stadium expansion, the Ulmer Softball Stadium expansion, and the Lacrosse Stadium press box when he worked for 5 years as the Assistant Athletic Director. That role included coordinating events hosted by U of L, including the NCAA 2012 Women's Volleyball and Field Hockey National Championships, 2012-2015 Men's and Women's Cross Country National Championships, the 2012 and 15 Men's Basketball second and third rounds, the 14 Women's Basketball Regional, and the Men's 16 Basketball Regional, featuring the eventual national champion Villanova Wildcats and Coach Jay Wright, who Josh would work with a few years later during nearly 4 years at Villanova. First as Associate Athletic Director for Internal Operations and Finance, and then as Senior Associate Athletics Director and Chief Athletics Operating Officer. He runs a lot. Before that, he spent 5 years in Washington, D.C. before his collegiate athletics career, working for a Colorado senator and an Idaho congressman. Next year will be his 15th year. He's been a Cardinal, spanning 2 different stints. 2013 NCAA basketball tournament most outstanding player Luke Hancock told me Josh is quiet, goes to work, and gets it done. Welcome Josh Heird, who's gracious, passionate, and a consummate professional in getting it done. Josh.
I think all I heard there was I'm getting old. Gosh, it's hard to believe as I listen to you there for a few minutes. It's pretty cool. And as I see some professors that I had in my MBA program. Dr. Cosby, I don't know if you remember, but you were a guest speaker in our MBA program at U of L a long time ago. I don't know if you're still doing that, but it's pretty neat to see some faces in the room. And to me, this is Louisville, right? I didn't know who I was going to know here or who I wasn't, but just about anywhere you go in Louisville, you know people or they know a connection, and it's a small community. It's a big little city, as I like to say. But first of all, let me just say thank you. Thank you to the Rotary Club for the invitation. Really excited to be here and just talk about a couple of things. As I was trying to piece together what I wanted to talk about, I'm just going to keep it pretty simple. As a lot of people say, keep it simple, stupid. I'm not smart enough to talk about 10 different topics. And so I was going to go through the goals that we've set as an athletic department. And I brought one slide for my PowerPoint here. And so this is it. But what I do want to do is make sure that as I'm having this conversation, I want it to be treated like a conversation. So if anything that I'm saying sparks a question or a comment, just raise your hand or just blurt it out and let's talk about it. Especially right now with college athletics and the ever-changing landscape that's taking place right now around.
I just want to let you know we'll have a Q&A session at the microphone after.
Okay. Well, we can do it after. I'm totally comfortable though if you just say, hey, expand on that, or tell us a little bit more about this. Happy to do that. So, or save until the end. But like I said, that's really going to be the format here. But before I get going, who went to the volleyball match last night at the Young Center? There's a handful of you in here. You and 9,000 other people were part of the biggest crowd to ever watch a U of L home volleyball match. And obviously, we've got some other programs that are competing right now. Volleyball, field hockey, and our men's soccer programs are all ranked in the top 10 right now. Our football team is going for the third straight win here on Saturday against a top 10 program. And I'm sure a lot of you, presumably everybody knows that basketball season is about to get going here. And I firmly believe that we have two of the best basketball coaches in the country. I know Coach Payne still has to get out there and show us what he can do as far as wins and losses go. But I think he's shown you what he's going to do in the community with this team, with this university. And I'll put it up there against anybody in the country. He understands what it means to lead one of the, if not the premier basketball program in the country. And he understands that it's more than just winning and losing games. It's how he represents himself, how the team represents themselves, and making sure that he's part of this community. It's been really, really neat to see. And then Jeff's been doing it for what, the better part of 15 years. And so those two, really excited how those two are going to work together. So like I said, I'm just going to, I don't want to mess up anybody's microphone up here. Like I said, I'm just going to go through the goals that we set. But before I do that, I think talk to you about my thoughts and ideas around goals as we set these as a senior team this summer. I want goals to be really, really hard to attain, but they have to be attainable. It can't just be, hey, we want to win we want to win national titles in 23 sports. That's not attainable. So we spent a lot of time trying to focus on what can we really attain. And when I talk about goals, I always go back to when I would set a goal for running a marathon. Because it had to be attainable, because in order to hold myself accountable to log 70 or 80 miles a week, I would have to tell people what I wanted to run. But once I told them that, that's the only thing they knew. Most of the people in this room, they don't know, what does a 4-hour marathon mean? Probably not a whole lot, right? A lot of you just think, guy runs marathons, that's pretty cool. Like, I've never done that. But when you give them, hey, I want to run 6-minute pace. They're like, oh, what does that equate to? Well, 2:37. Then they're stuck with that, right? Like, they know. And then if I come back after a marathon and I'm like, I ran 2:45. You didn't meet your goal. And on the flip side, I wanted to make sure that I was putting a goal out there that I could attain, while at the same time knowing it was going to be really hard, because I had to hold myself accountable. And I want our goals, when I'm leading an organization or a department or anything I'm doing, I want our goals to reflect that same attitude. And so with that, and really we cheated a little bit. This is really 5 goals if you look at it. We kind of put that first sentence in there, and that's really the overarching goal: to achieve a world-class student-athlete experience, period. And for me, this gets at the heart of a lot of the conversations around college athletics right now, and paying players, and revenue share, and name, image, and likeness. And I would tell you that the college structure is not broken. It really isn't. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that student athletes shouldn't make money. I think they should make money. And I think we need to find avenues and ways for them to make money. But we can't forget that the way college athletics was designed, it was designed for a couple of sports to take care of all the other sports. We have 2 sports that make money. That's it. And we're pretty lucky there. Most programs don't have one. So think about that. And I'll use some examples from my time at Villanova. The university gave that athletic department more than $20 million a year to operate, because they had 24 sports. They had a 5,000-seat basketball arena. They couldn't generate that revenue. And so I'm welcome to have these conversations about revenue sharing and how much we pay players if we go down that road. But we've got to make sure that we can take care of the other, for us, 22 sports, or I guess 21 if you count men's basketball and football. And I think if you talk, as I talk to parents, as I talk to student athletes, as I talk to recruits, most of them they are not hammering home, hey, I've got to make money, I've got to make money, I've got to make money. Where's the $1 million I'm going to get? They just want a really good experience. And they want to make sure that we're providing them with the resources to do that. And when I say the resources, I mean, we have 300 plus employees in our athletic department. And a large majority of them they are focused on taking care of student athletes in some form or fashion. So whether it's academics, you go right on down the list, academics, nutrition, sports performance, weight training, it goes on and on and on. And so are we making sure that they're really, really enjoying that experience? Because at the end of the day, the goal, and I say this, I've said it in I think a couple of the press conferences that I've had, I want people to be really proud to wear that U of L shirt. And that includes our alumni. And I think there was a time there that didn't happen, unfortunately. And there was a time there it didn't happen with our student athletes either. And I can tell you, I was a fan, right? I worked here for 10 years. I went to Villanova. I do have a degree from here. But when I was in Philly, I looked at myself as a fan of the University of Louisville. And there were days that something would scroll across the bottom line. And I knew when I walked into the office the next day, I was going to be like, all of my coaches, counterpart, they were going to give me a hard time about U of L, and it wasn't fun. And so that was one of the catalysts for me coming back here. When I got the opportunity, when Vince and I had a conversation, this place means the world to me, and I thought, if I can help this place, I want to come back and try to do that. And then I would tell you, being put in the position I'm in, being the director of athletics, I got lucky. I really believe that. It was, I don't want to say right place, right time, but I was given an opportunity, and for that, there was some luck involved there. Now, it was up to me to take advantage of that opportunity, which I feel like I did. But for all of those dominoes to fall the way they did, for me to come back here, and then everything transpire the way it did, I'll be the first one to admit I got a little lucky there. But I would tell you that I'm so excited to be here. I will never go anywhere else as long as people want me to be the athletic director here. I can promise you that. Feel extremely, extremely fortunate to live in the city, be the athletic director at the University of Louisville, and just represent this great university, this great community. So with that, we'll move on down the line here. Achieve 100% graduation success rate. And look, you guys can say, well, that's not attainable. Yeah, you're probably right. We're at 92% right now. That's really good. The rest of campus is I think, a shade over 60, I think. And so I think we can get to 95, 96. And so in order to do that, I want us to strive to be at 100%. I want us to strive for every student athlete that decides to come to school here graduates from the University of Louisville. Because that's the other thing I would say, as I talk about the college model, I still think that there's a college degree still means something. I firmly believe that. Until somebody can convince me otherwise, that's what I'm going to tell people. That getting a college degree and having a majority of it paid for a lot of the time through athletics, it means something. But we have to make sure that we surround our student athletes with the resources to be successful. And that's one of the things I tell our recruits when I meet with them. Like, look, you have to try to screw it up. Like, we put enough resources around you that if you don't do what they tell you to do, you're probably going to have above 3.0. And I mean that because of the resources that we put around them, that Marvin Mitchell puts around them from an academic standpoint. So that's goal number one, achieve 100% graduation success rate. Reach unprecedented levels of fan engagement investment. And that goes back to what we talked about with the student-athlete experience. We need everybody in this room, everybody in this community to support us. And it's a lot of the same things we talked about. If we're not making the right decisions, then you're not waking up, putting that shirt on because you don't feel good about it, and then you're not supporting us. And so we have to make sure that we wake up every day and make the right decisions. Every day. And we all do it, right? We all wake up every day and we're faced with decisions and, that one's not that big of a deal. Let me go ahead and, go on this side of making that decision. And that's what I talk to our staff about all the time. That's when you start creating culture, positively or negatively, right? So if you say, hey, it's just a tiny little thing, nobody will notice, if I make the wrong decision here. But then a decision comes along that maybe just is going to impact a couple more people. And you're like, well, I did it that last time, it didn't mean, nobody noticed, so now I'm going to step over here on this side of the line a little bit further. And next thing you know, you make a really bad decision. And I think every organization asks themselves when they get to that point, how did this happen? And it's because we weren't paying attention to making the right decisions every day. And I harp on our coaches, staff, that is paramount for me. And if you look at it, it impacts everything we do. if you think about the amount of money we've spent to battle the, I don't want to say battle the NCAA, battle these allegations over the last 5 years, you quantify that number that we've spent on legal representation and the amount of money we've lost from fans not coming to games, not buying tickets, not buying merchandise. You go right on down the list. I mean, and you can't quantify it, but I've tried to put a number to it. It's probably $40 to $50 million. I think that's on the low side of things, to be honest with you. And so every day, we are going to try really hard to make the right decisions. And if we do that, I think our fans, I think the city, you guys are going to be engaged. We had 9,000 people at a volleyball match last night. And so if we continue to show that you can trust us. See, I talk about that all the time. Like, do our fans trust us? And it's not just making the right decision on things from a moral standpoint. When we say, hey, we're going to have Wi-Fi at the stadium, I just put something out there, and then if we don't have it, you don't trust us, right? When I say, hey, it's going to be a great experience when you go to the football game, but the lines are long and the concessions aren't any good, you don't trust us. And so that's one of the things I harp on with our staff is we've got to be excellent at everything we do, everything that we do. And I want us to be beyond reproach when we operate, when we make decisions. And so that's a focus for us right now. And I talk about it, like I said, I talk about it all the time. When we do that, we start creating a really, really good culture. And then that culture expands, right? And then it transforms over to the university. And then you get into the community. And it was really interesting. Somebody, when I was at the West End School, came up and said, I really appreciate you having Kenny and the student athletes and Jeff here. And some of Kenny's staff was there. And I said, I didn't ask any one of these people to show up today. I didn't. There's some events that I'm like, hey, I need you. And I didn't ask any of them to be there. I quite frankly, I pulled into the parking lot. I was a few minutes late. I rolled down my window, and the guys, the players were walking in. I'm like, you guys are late. And I didn't have any idea they were coming. And of course, they let me know I was later. But this third one here, and I think this one, I think it surprises people when I talk about winning national championships. But once again, I want us to be excellent at everything we do. And I just mentioned 3 of our fall sports are in the top 10. But we've only won 3 national titles from a team standpoint. That's it. I put us up there with the best athletic departments in the country. We've won 3 national titles in 1 sport. And so, going back to that second goal, can we make sure that we have the resources needed to win national titles? Because when we do that, then you get you get the very best recruits in the country as opposed to the top 20. And that's where we're at right now. It's the slimmest of margins for recruits to come here. We had the #1 swimming recruit in the country on our campus a couple weeks ago. We had some of the best recruits in the country in men's and women's basketball on our campus last weekend with Louisville Live. And so what are we doing to differentiate ourselves just the tiniest bit? And I think winning national titles does that. And I am extremely confident that Danny in volleyball and Jeff in women's basketball, they're going to win national championships. And I'm really, really excited to say that will be our first ever women's national title, team national championship. I can't wait for that, and it's coming. It's coming, and then we're going to have more. I can promise you that. But I also, when I say win national championships, the other thing I would tell you that I always talk to our coach and our staff about is, does commitment equal expectation? So are we putting forth the commitment in order for them to win those national titles? And I would tell you that's one of the hardest jobs I feel like I have, is when you have a bunch of sports that are really good, they all want everything. And we don't have enough resources. We just don't have enough resources to go around and give every coach and every student athlete everything that they want. So we have to prioritize it a little bit. And I would tell you at Villanova, it was easier. Everybody on that campus knew men's basketball is taken care of. Like, that's it. Men's basketball is taken care of. We'll figure out the other 23. Here, you got Dan McDonald, you got Danny Busboom. You go right on down. Men's and women's swimming's in the top 10. Field hockey's number 4. It's crazy. And they all want to win. but they all want the resources and need the resources to do that. So that's what we're trying to provide them with. And then just be the best place in college athletics to work. And it's a lot of the same things we talked about with our fans. You know, I've got to make sure that our 300 plus employees trust me, trust the decisions that we're going to make, and that's hard. You know, that's really hard. And so we try to do that every day. And as I tell our staff, as long as if you make the right decision, you tell the truth, you're transparent, you're honest, then you're going to create the trust with your staff. And so that's what we try to do. And if you do that, I think that wears off, you know, once again, it permeates through the organization. And you get to the point where everybody has the same expectations as whoever's leading that organization. So for me, like I said, it's really high expectations. I'm going to be extremely honest. My wife will tell you I'm probably too honest at times. I'm going to be really transparent. And at the end of the day, I just want people to be proud of this university and proud of our athletic department. And I'll kind of end it on this. I go back to my time at Villanova, and everybody knows what a great ambassador Jay Wright was. And the thing that I was surprised about was when it didn't matter if they won or lost a basketball game, and they didn't lose very many. But after a loss, I woke up and I had no problems throwing on a sweatshirt that had a big V on it, because of everything that they did. It was done the right way. Nobody could throw a stone at Villanova. And that's what I want our athletic department to be. And that's what we're shooting for every day. So with that, I'll open it up for questions and go for it.
Dan, what would you like to hear?
You're going to work in our marketing department. You're going to play the music at the football games. I get enough complaints about those.
Okay, we can take that on. I would, so folks, start coming down to the front if you'd like to ask questions. I've got one to kick it off. Can you tell a story about one of your coaches, and I'm particularly a funny story or something that just tells you what kind of person that coach is? And I don't know if it's, I'm a baseball guy, so I'll follow up with other stuff later.
I can give you the Dan McDonald story from the last week. So Dan, I'm pretty well convinced, since Dan isn't on social media, he thinks nobody else is on social media. And so we had to twist his arm to be a judge at the dunk contest for Louisville Live Friday night. It's like, Dan, this is going to be really good from a recruiting standpoint. We're going to get a jersey made for Jack Harlow, a baseball jersey. You're going to get the chance to give it to him. Recruits are going to love this. I'm not sure I want to do it. And finally convinced him it was worth his time. And I saw we had a head coaches meeting yesterday, and he told me this, man, he's like, I had no idea that 17 and 18-year-olds really like Jack Harlow. he said, family, nephews, nieces. He said, I'm like the most popular guy there is right now because of what's on social media. I'm like, that's how this thing works, man. That's how this thing works. So, but I would tell you, from a coaching standpoint, and if you look at our coaches, a lot of them have been here for quite a while. But I'm really, really happy with the group of coaches that we have. Really, really happy. They are a really, really good group. Like I said, they demand a lot, but I want to give them a lot because they, I think every one of them, and this may sound a little odd, but every one of them wants what's in the best interest of their student athletes. They don't put themselves first, and it's what Kenny says. I want to help them achieve their dreams, and I feel like we have coaches across the board that want that. So it's a lot of fun right now, to be honest with you. Yeah.
First and foremost, Mike Brumley. First and foremost, I want to thank you and your predecessor Vince for bringing some integrity back to this program. It means a lot to me, and that you stuck around as well and weathered the storm. I have kind of two questions. The first dealing with the second. Naming and NILs. If we're just talking the top sports for women and men, what percentage of athletes are actually getting the good money? And number two, what can the university do? Because you touched upon it a little bit. The danger is that the SEC might take over football. And then it becomes, hey, let's make this a club sport, like most of Europe deals with.
Yeah.
Where it has nothing to do anymore with the university, it has nothing to do with college education. You give every kid, maybe a lineman in this case that's getting zero today, hey, we'll give you $150,000 out of high school. You can do whatever you want with that money. You can go to college, you can spend half on college, half of it here. What can we do to stem that tide, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, you know, and I can only speak for Louisville here. I think that we have set up a pretty good model from an NIL standpoint, and I don't think that it's, I don't want to say it's not artificially inflated. Any Power 5 program that's dealing in the NIL space, that market's a little bit artificially inflated just based on, you have people that want to support the program. And so are they necessarily making the best business decision? Like, hey, I want this student athlete to tweet this out or put this on Instagram. Is it worth the value that they're paying that student athlete if they just did it from a straight marketing standpoint? Probably not. But I do think that we have more of a true market than a lot of places in the country because we have a community that supports our program, I would contend, like any other. And it's not just, like I said, artificially inflated by donors who say, hey, I just want to give money to them. You know, a lot of times there has to be some sort of component, whether it's a community service component that they've tried to tie some NIL pieces around, or it truly is, hey, I think this could impact the business that I'm running. And so to answer your question, we have very few right now, football, basketball, that have big time, you know, significant, we call them six-figure deals. You know, our most popular student athletes, Haley Nicolette. If you look at what she's done from a social media following, and I would tell you the way that she has structured her representation, you know, she's represented by a premier agency in the country, and she's very selective with the deals that she and the companies and the organizations that she partners with. And so I think that's one of the hardest things is getting all of our student athletes to understand that no matter what decision you make, that's part of your brand. And so if you say, hey, you know, I'm going to take that $20 deal that, you know, some company that nobody's ever heard of is giving me, well, you just accepted a deal that might decrease the value of your brand. And so right now, from a pure student athlete, hey, just want to go out and get these big time deals. We don't, you know, I don't know if I tell you we probably don't have one that's very significant, that really moves the needle. You know, and then going back to your second question, I think what's interesting to me is you have a couple of organizations that are talking about how these student athletes are exploited and are taken advantage of, and they're going, you know, they're swinging the pendulum to the far side, and I don't think anybody's really tried to swing the pendulum to the complete opposite side, to your point, and say, hey, if we start paying them or they're employees, what does that mean? You know, if you think about an education and a scholarship and all the support services that we're providing, you know, none of that's taxed. And so the value that they're getting is much more significant than say, hey, we're just going to give you $75,000. Okay, when you start taxing all those things and everything that we do, what's your value then? And so, you know, there's just some different things. I think if we talked about the whole story, I think it would be a little bit different. Now, I would also tell you that I think a lot of the things that some of these organizations want, we're doing. You know, we provide health care. We provide health care once they graduate. And we do some different things that, like I said, they're asking for, we're already doing. And I say it all the time, that's on us. We've got to do a better job of telling our story. And so that's what we're trying to do. But like I said, as I talk to parents, I talk to recruits, a large majority of them, you know, they don't want to be employees. They realize the consequences that come with that. You know, I mean, it's pretty easy to say, hey, you didn't do your job, so now you don't have one. And we don't, you know, this idea that we pull scholarships. I'm not saying we, I'm talking about the industry as a whole. I couldn't tell you one time that we just said, hey, you're not living up to your expectations, we're taking your scholarship away. You know, if you're doing things that you really shouldn't be doing from a, from a team standpoint, from an attitude standpoint, then, and it's not just, hey, we're pulling that. It's like, hey, you've got to get better. You've got to do some things differently. And they get every chance they can possibly have to right that, correct it, and end up being successful. So, I think if we can have constructive conversations about it, that we can find solutions here. I really believe that.
Josh Heird Bailey. This question is related to fan experience, and it's related to tailgating. When do we get our assigned parking spaces back?
I don't know. I would tell you, this is one we've wrestled with for years. You know this. And one of the things we've talked about is can we can we create a hybrid where maybe we extend the reserved parking spaces into the purple lot, maybe A and B, and then open it up for speed parking after that. Because there's pros and cons to both. There really is. You would be surprised at how many people tell us that they're happy that they can park now, because before there's a lot of people they couldn't park. Like they literally were parking at the fairgrounds. And there is a safety component too, which I know people have a tough time believing. But it allows, once you fill those rows up, then a lot of times cars can't go in and out there. So it's like, hey, there's a little more flexibility for people to walk around. Like this isn't a hey, all or nothing. I really can we find a solution there? Because I don't think we have enough people that want reserved parking to fill up. That lot doesn't fill up, right? The purple lot from north to south. So can we create a hybrid there where we say, hey, all right, the A and B, let's see if we can get that from a reserve standpoint, and then after that, open it up to speed parking. So it's something we're thinking about.
That's why I love Rotary. I would never have thought of a parking question with that. President Walt, Chris Monzo here, Principal St. Knox Design. An academic and spent a lot of time on campus and various campuses. Really applaud your very clear goals. I think that's phenomenal. How do you see that impacting the broader culture at U of L and the academic kind of larger picture? And then real quick, just wanted to give a shout out to Joe's Palm Room for hosting us today.
Yeah, so from an academic standpoint, if we can help drive excellence on the academic side, that's what I want to do. I absolutely want to do that. If we can help improve the academic standing for the university, athletics will help wherever we can. And I go back to, I want us to be really good at everything we do. That includes academics. And I would tell you that, I don't want to say every time, but a large majority of the time, it's like, hey, you really want to go to school here, want to play for this coach or that coach, I can't pass up the opportunity to go to this academic institution. That's a lot of times that's how we lose recruits, because we're competing against the Stanfords and the Dukes. And I say it all the time because I use the example of Arthur, our swim coach. He's been right there with some of the best swimming recruits in the country. And even when I was at Villanova, he called me one time. He's like, hey, it's between us and Stanford. I'm like, well, what is that kid even thinking? I mean, from an academic standpoint, like, my kids wouldn't have a choice. Hey, you're going to Stanford. And so how can we make sure that we're giving them a reason not to come to U of L from an academic standpoint? So that the business school, the engineering school, they're some of the better ones in the country. And we've got the opportunity to do that. We're in a really good neighborhood in the ACC from an academic standpoint. I mean, a really good neighborhood. And so how do we make sure that we're capitalizing on that to have some of the best academic programs in the country? Because as much fun as it is to say that you're really good at sports, and I really, really enjoyed when I was at Villanova, saying we're really good at both. And really good at both. Because that's college athletics. And that's where I want the University of Louisville to be.
Thank you, so much for coming today. My name is Larry Sloan. I'm a season ticket holder for both the men's and women's basketball and for the volleyball.
You're busy.
And, yeah, but happily so. My question is, I'd like to understand the difference that you have to deal with between men's and women's athletics. So do you have to have the same number of teams in each category, or do you have the same number of players, coaches, or how does that work?
So it's the easiest, the quickest way to boil it down to is strictly from a Title IX standpoint, is are you providing the same amount of opportunities in relation to the percentages of male and female student athletes you have on campus. So if we have, let's say, 55% women, 45% male on campus, then those are the numbers that have to be reflected with our roster sizes in athletics. So teams are irrelevant. It's about roster spots and total roster spots that we create for our men and our women. And it was, COVID actually made it difficult because we set our roster limits so that we we're within 1 or 2 percentage points of that. But what happened is the NCAA essentially allowed everybody an extra year to compete. And so we granted any fifth years that wanted to come back, we gave them that opportunity. And so our roster sizes grew, and we didn't have the limits on them that we would have normally put on them. And then with that, we also have female enrollment that's been going up at U of L. So we've had to combat that by reducing some of our men's roster sizes. But that's the long and the short of it. Philosophically, I want our women's sports to have the exact same as our men's and vice versa. It shouldn't even be a discussion of, well, you know, the men get this, and you know, I think we can provide the women with close to that. No, it's something that I get frustrated with, in that, like, well, do we have to do that? We don't. Like, it's not a matter of have. We should. Period. And it goes back to those resources. I don't want, when we get down to the Final Four, it's the slimmest of margins. It is the slimmest of margins. So, you know, when let's say we contract with a low-cost charter company, and our flight's delayed coming back from Boston, and they get home at 4 in the morning instead of, call it, midnight. Well, that's going to have an impact. And so it's those things that I think a lot of people don't realize. You know, it's hotels, it's charter companies, it's how they eat, how they travel, things like that. And if we're not treating everybody similarly, it makes a difference. It impacts them. So.
Josh, Dan Hartledge, football season ticket holder. I was one of the 9,000 last night. Good time. Question regarding these pending NCAA sanctions that we've been waiting on forever. What do you know, and what do you expect?
I can tell you about the same that you know. Obviously, the NCAA is very strict about talking about any of this. But if you look at, there's been 2 cases that have been decided already by the IARP, the Independent Accountability Review Panel. And you look at the dates of when they had their hearing relative to when they had their decision. You can do the math and presume, based on those 2 previous cases, that we will have a decision, I would presume, I just call it sooner than later. I'll let this group do the math. And that's based on those 2 previous cases. I'm not going to tell you that they rely on those 2 previous cases. I mean, it could be a month, it could be 6 months from now. But if you look at consistency, then I would expect it sooner than later. And then once again, I'm just basing this off of the 2 previous cases. And it looks like they are trying not to impact the student athletes that had nothing to do with the allocations at those previous institutions. And so, does that give me a little bit of hope? It does. But once again, I want to be realistic and want to make sure that when that decision does come, does get handed down, that we're ready to prepare for it, or we are prepared for it, whatever that may be. And at the end of the day, though, I think if there's, I don't want to call it excitement, but the opportunity to move forward. It's been 5+ years. I mean, think about that. 5 years. It's hard to believe. And so, whatever the decision is, there will be some relief. That's probably the right word. That's behind us. That other schools can't say, hey, this is happening or that's happening, because it'll be fact at that point, and we can move forward. The men's basketball program can move forward. The department can move forward, and quite honestly, this community, this fan base can move forward. So that's where we're at with it right now.
Thank you, Josh. Leave on a very happy note. What are you excited about in U of L athletics right now?
A happy note. Eric knows this is Jeff Wall's birthday today. I actually got a text from Eric. He said, "Hey, you gonna break any news at the Rotary Club?" And I said, "No, probably not. So if you want to go to media day for women's basketball, your time might be better served there." No, I think just the overall culture of the programs, the department. I feel really good about where we're at, and I think I'm a small piece of that. I think Vince did a terrific job over the previous 4 years, and I have no issues going back to his predecessor and Tom. And you think about the coaches that are here. A lot of those, Tom hired a number of those. Tom did some terrific things here. He made the University of Louisville what it is as far as getting us into the ACC. And then, like I said, Vince came in and I think adjusted some things culturally. And so I'm just trying to kind of meld all of that together and hopefully achieve some new successes. And like I said, just be the absolute best that we can be. And that's what we're shooting for.
So we have a couple things as we finish up today. One thing I neglected to even talk about, but I will right this second, is the Rotary's West Louisville Housing Initiative, where Rotary is raising $5 million for first-time homeowners in the 9 named neighborhoods in the West End, including Russell, right where we are. And we're well on our way to raising that money that will supply between 60 and 70 first-time homeowners with their mortgage. And then as they pay it off, it goes back into the fund. It's evergreen, and everybody, lots of folks in Louisville are waiting for our first loan. There's folks around the country watching to see what we're doing, how we do it well, so it can be replicated. But it is a huge deal for Rotary to get involved, service above self, looking after our neighbors right here in West Louisville. And with that, Josh, we're making a $500 contribution to our Rotary West Louisville Housing Initiative in your behalf. So thank you for coming.
He didn't sign this one either.
I didn't sign it. The greatest thing about all the mistakes I made is the joy that they bring to others. We'll fix that, Josh. Y'all have to sit right here while I sign these things. Okay, so with that, we have, go ahead. That's good. Thank you, John. We're on the last page here. Next Thursday, we'll be at Joe's Palm Room right here, and we'll feature Dan Mann, the Executive Director of Louisville Muhammad Ali International Airport. We'll give an update on how the airport is positioning itself for the future, including major air service wins, a record-setting number of nonstop flights, and progress of the SDF Next program, where we'll see upwards of $400 million in investment in the coming years. Please scan your QR codes at your tables or visit the website for the link. Deadline is Monday. Also, remember Thanksgiving with the Kiwanis at Audubon Country Club. We need that by Monday. For those guests here that are interested in Rotary, come right down here to the Where's Rotary table and learn what it takes to be a Rotarian. Thank you, and we are adjourned.